Well, hello there everybody. Welcome to my channel. If you're new here, I'm very excited you're here, and if you are returning, I'm so happy you're back. Today I'm going to be talking about an update for my 1 week 1 palette project that I have been doing. I have been loving this project. It has kept all of my makeup looks super fresh and different and making me try different... Sorry, my husband was just messing with the garage door. But it's been making me try different eyeshadow looks that I normally wouldn't, and I've just been having a lot of fun. And sometimes I've even decluttered some palettes in this series if I decide I don't need them. So let's get into this. I do have a lot of makeup looks to talk about and thoughts to discuss. So let's get right into the first palette that I had chosen last time. That would be this beautiful, beautiful thing right here. This is the Anastasia Beverly Hills Subculture palette. Now, I mentioned when I brought this in last time, this palette really intimidates me, but I was determined to get some use out of it, and I am so proud to say that I did use some of the shades that I normally would stay far away from. So the first thing I did was I followed some advice from Laura Force. I'll make sure and link her down below. She currently is panning the Subculture palette, which is so impressive, and I asked her for advice. I was like, what should I start with? And she just advised just doing like a one shadow look. I'm like, that's what I'm gonna do. I'll make sure and put the looks up on the screen as well so you can see. So the first look I did, just to keep things easy, I went in with Roxy, which I do think is one of my favorite shades in the palette. You can see it's just a really pretty, kind of like a peachy color, and I really enjoyed it. This is definitely my speed. I thought it was a really great way to just start the week out, something easy. And it kind of proved to me that, you know, working with this palette doesn't have to be complicated. It can be easy. And I think on that look, I also did use Cube on the inner corner. For look number 2, I took another one of her suggestions and I took Mercury and blended it out with quite a light hand all over the lid and into the crease, and it made it look almost taupey. I mean, it's kind of like a strange, weird, grayish taupe color. It's kind of hard to nail down what it actually is. But I used Mercury, you know, all over. And I'm looking at my little notes here to remember I have written down what I did. Then I put Cube on the lid and on the inner corner. Cube is this one over here. And then I actually took a little bit of Rowdy, this purple, and put it on the outer corner just to deepen it up a little bit. And I thought that look was not only easy to do, but it turned out really pretty and cute, and it was a fun, cool toned look. I enjoyed that very much. For look number 3, I decided I would just go for it. I went into Axis, which I had never used on my eyes before. I put it on the outer corner and on the lower lash line. I used Dawn in the crease. Then I went into Electric. I put that on the lid, on the inner corner. I did notice some fallout with Electric, but it wasn't bad. I did have some issues with the placement of Axis for this look. I really had to mess around with it for quite a while trying to fix it, and I even had to get out like a little microfiber cloth to remove because I had gotten it up too far and I just didn't like how it looked. But in the end, I liked how it looked. It turned out super pretty. All right, for look number 4, I decided I need to try out this color called Fudge. I put Fudge on the outer corner. I put New Wave in the crease, Adorn on the lid, and Dawn actually on the inner corner. I decided to keep the inner corner matte. That was a really pretty look. I enjoyed that a lot. Definitely one that I would do again. Then I decided that I need to try out this khaki green called Destiny. It is honestly kind of hard to work with. I found it a bit patchy. And looking at the pictures, I can tell that it didn't blend out as nicely as I would have liked, but I decided to also keep this just a plain matte look. I kept Destiny on the outer corner, and then I used Dawn on the inner lid and lower lash line. I do think that this color, this khaki green color, can be really pretty. You just gotta be careful with it and try and blend it as much as possible. So those are the 5 looks I did with this. I mean, I didn't get to use every shade that week. These 2 shades here are actually some of my favorites to use together, but I avoided using them because those were the 2 shades I had actually used from this palette before. I really like Edge as a single shadow look as well. So I feel like using this week, or not this week, the week that I used it, really made this much more approachable for me, and I'm not as scared of it anymore, and I'm looking forward to using it again. I really loved it. Okay, the second palette I used was this e.l.f. New Classics palette. This is a palette I picked up at Ross, actually. I mean, e.l.f. is affordable anyway, and then I got it even more affordable at Ross. And my main goal in using it this week was to use some of the shimmers that I had never used before all over the lid. So the first one that I really wanted to focus on was this shade here called Platinum, which actually I really enjoyed this shade. In the pan, it can look almost silvery-ish, but I felt like, you know, out of that black background and actually on the eye, it looked more taupey. So I used Charmer in the crease, Earth on the outer corner, Platinum all over the lid, Blanc here on the inner corner, and cream on the brow bone. Oh, you can see Blanc. I was trying so hard to hit pan on that. I have got the deepest dip. I use this in almost every look for my inner corner, and I didn't quite hit pan. Very disappointing. I feel like, though, this would very quickly happen if I continued to use it every day as on the inner corner. But that look turned out super cool tone, and I really liked it. All right, for the second look, I decided to focus on this shade here called Cosmo. I put this on the lid, Truffle in the crease, Muse on the outer corner, Blanc again on the inner corner, and then Cream on the brow bone. I really liked how that look turned out. It was more of a pink toned look, which, as you can see from the look I'm wearing today, I kind of like that look. I thought it turned out really pretty. My third look, I don't feel like sharing. It didn't really turn out that well. I tried to use Glamour all over the lid, and Glamour I felt like didn't really show up. It's just kind of like a very, very light, slightly shimmery shade. I feel like that's probably my least favorite shade in the palette, and it quickly disappeared on my eye as well. By the afternoon, it was completely gone. I feel like look 5 might have been my favorite. I decided to focus on this shade here called Gilded, and I put this all over the lid, Opulent into the outer corner, which is a really pretty cool tone shade, by the way, and then Uptown. Oh, that's not Uptown. This is Uptown, to blend it all out, and then I'm Blanc, of course, on the inner corner. I feel like Blanc has a different formula than the rest of these shimmers down here, but even though they are not like the smoothest shimmers, they look really smooth on the eye. I feel like someone with texture or more folds in their lids, like me, I thought these were really flattering, and this particular palette, you can have lots of different shimmers and tones to play with, and the mattes, of course, were just, they were nice. They were pigmented, powdery, but I could, I feel like that's typical to have some powderiness, so it didn't bother me, and I didn't really struggle too much with fallout, actually, maybe at all with this palette. So I think this is a good one. I liked it. If you like neutral looks, there's both cool tone and warm tone looks in this. Oh, you know what, actually, there was one more look. I totally forgot to write down that I did it, but looking at my pictures here, I can remember this was this palette. I used rose gold all over the lid, and I'm pretty sure I used Earth in the outer corner. That look turned out really pretty as well. Very much enjoyed it. Okay, the third palette was this Essence Salute Paris palette, which is a very pink palette. This palette I have some thoughts on, so maybe I can just show you a couple looks first, and then we'll talk about my feelings. So the very first look I did was I used this shadow here. I'm counting from this direction when I count. So I got shadow number 4, this one, all into the crease, shadow number 7 here on the lid, 8 in the outer corner, and 6 on the inner corner. I thought it was pretty. It wasn't my ultimate favorite. It's a little bit too icy pink. Both of these pinks for me are very icy, and it's not my very favorite look. Like, it turned out okay, like I said, but yeah, it just wasn't my favorite. Second day, I decided to try out this gray a little bit, and I feel like I went a little bit heavy-handed with it and then didn't blend it out as well as I could, so forgive the pictures on this one. I used 3 in the crease. I blended it out with 2, 7 all over the lid, and 8 in the outer corner. This look, once again, I liked it, but I felt like I went a little heavy-handed with the gray there. It's more pigmented than you'd imagine. And this is another palette, actually, where I prefer the mattes to the shimmers. The mattes are really smooth. They layer nicely. I felt like they were pigmented, but not too pigmented, and they were actually surprising for how affordable Essence is. I thought it had really nice mattes, but I didn't care for these shimmers too much. This shimmer, on the other hand, oh, you know what? Another look. I forgot to show you. Let me quick show you that look. I used shade number 5 here in the crease, 9 on the outer half of the lid, 7 on the inner half, and then 6 here on the inner corner. This was my favorite look. I thought this turned out really pretty, really rosy, really lovely, and it's because I used this shimmer. This shimmer has a different formula than these two. These two reminded me of the e.l.f. formula. It's a slightly more gritty, but they looked really nice and smoothing on the eyes. The grittiness didn't really bother me, but it was definitely very different compared to this shimmer, which is nice and smooth. So even though I don't mind the formula of this, I much prefer using the formula of this one for sure. So my thoughts on this palette, I don't know if I'm gonna keep it. I feel like once I think of maybe the right person that I want to give this to, I might pass it along. I feel like these shades here are so icy, and every single time I use them, I'm like, well, maybe if I just use it in a different way, I'll like it. And I'm never quite happy with how they look. It's almost like baby pink, which I like pink. I mean, I'm wearing a rosy shade today. I'm wearing a pink sweater, but there's something about baby pink on my eyelids that I just wasn't a big fan of. I'm gonna keep it for now, but if I can think of just the right person that I wanna give this to, I'll probably pass this along. Okay, so now to choose my palettes for the next 3 weeks. I know for a fact that I have to use this. This is the Nomad by Juvia's Place. This is one of my newest purchases, and I have to. I mean, it's the perfect time of year, and look at that. I can't wait to dive into this mustard and this gorgeous, I don't know if this is like a taupey gold. What do you, kind of, yeah. Yeah, that's pretty. That'd be really nice on the lid, and I'm just really excited to get into this palette. So this will be for the first week. For the second week, I decided to go with my little Huda Beauty Mauve Obsessions palette. This is one I'm going to be kind of, in my mind, comparing to that Essence palette. They do have major differences. I mean, the Essence one had some grays and a lot more creams, whereas this one, you know, has a lot more of these like maroons in it and different shades of pink. But you know, they're both pink palettes, so I'm going to be kind of comparing them and see which one I prefer using. But I've been kind of neglecting this palette. This is one of my oldest palettes, but I feel like I got it right when I started getting more palettes, and I just haven't used it as much as I thought I would. So I'm really excited to spend a whole week to this little guy. And then for the third week, I can't help it, I want to go back to my Mario palette. I feel like I think I saw in some comments, some people were saying that they are tired of hearing about this palette, but I just love it. It's so good. And I feel like every single shade is glorious. I can't wait to get into this green for this time of year, and this kind of more like a cool toned brown. It's just so yummy. I can't wait. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me as I chatted about the eyeshadow looks I've been doing for the past few weeks. Have you been loving any palettes lately? If so, let me know which ones down in the comments. I would love to hear. But that's all from you guys. I'll see you next time. Bye!